Florida Republican Congressman Michael Waltz joins us now. He serves on the House Armed Services Committee. He's also a former Green Beret commander. Sir, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks, Jillian.
So 6 million refugees in 3 months. Yep. That's an average of 2 million a month.
That's right.
You'd think that for these people fleeing the horrors of war, escaping the clutches of Vladimir Putin would be the end of the story. But it turns out that's just the beginning of the horror show.
This is the largest, most concentrated refugee flow since World War II. And as we heard Greg say, 95% are women and children because of Zelensky's national mobilization law. All of the men are staying in Ukraine to fight. In addition to that, you have the elderly, the disabled. You have really, truly the most vulnerable. And on top of that, 14 million are internally displaced. So you have Russian mafia
trapped in the country,
can't get out, but out of their homes. You have Russian mafia, Ukrainian mafia, international trafficking rings, literally preying on these people, offering to help oftentimes as they come across the border. And if it isn't horrific enough what's happened to them, then they find themselves trapped in either labor trafficking rings with slave labor going on around the world, or in the worst of cases, sex trafficking rings for the young girls. And so we convened a group of these NGOs and others yesterday, bipartisan group, to really understand and hear about what's going on and what we can do about it.
Right. You know, you mentioned labor trafficking, because sex trafficking is the one that grabs the headlines, but the labor trafficking one could be an even bigger problem, because you're a displaced person, you've traveled to a country that you aren't familiar with. You need to have work, you need to have money to survive.
Maybe you don't speak the language.
And you don't speak the language.
That's right.
And then somebody says, oh, by the way, we can get you work here, and it's either for pennies or, as you pointed out, slave labor.
Yeah, or they take their passport, they take their work papers, they have nowhere to go, and then suddenly they're caught in a labor trafficking ring with nowhere to go. The other thing, I think it's important to note from yesterday's meeting, these groups are kind of ringing the alarm bells that sentiment is changing in Europe, even in Poland. People are just getting exhausted. They've absorbed 3 million people in a matter of months. The government hasn't been able to keep up with kind of compensation, and the attitudes there are starting to turn. And I'm just not hearing any long-range plan from the administration or from European leaders on how to deal with this kind of flow. They obviously want to return to Ukraine, but many of these cities, they have nothing. There's nothing left. What are they going to go back to?
So all those people from Mariupol.
That's right.
Like that.
And now we're hearing from our military officials that it might be years before this war draws to a close. So if in a best case scenario for a lot of these people, they're looking at that amount of time before they can go home. So what did these NGOs you met with yesterday tell you? What do they see that the U.S., that the Biden administration can do to help stem this trafficking crisis?
Well, they need, America has to lead, and they need to continue to lead both through international organizations, but also through European organizations, and not just in terms of resources. You just reported on the aid that was passed, but these border countries, these Eastern European countries, can't bear all of the burden. Some of the kind of old Europe, France, Germany, United Kingdom, Spain, and others need to step up and help. And just look, on the aid piece, I know it's been controversial in some corners. I just wrote an op-ed on our border. We have to take care of our border, and we should go on offense against these cartels that are destabilizing. We have 2 million a year coming across our border.
Right.
We've got a report from Bill Malugin coming up on that. Just time is short, so I want to ask you quickly. You and Congresswoman Young Kim submitted legislation which would look at what's happening with inflation, something that you think the White House would be doing. And part of what this legislation does is measures the impact on the cost of living, evaluates how inflation impacts wages, considers the impact on American competitiveness, goes on, does a few other things. The point that I guess I'm making here is this is about to bite us really, really hard.
Yeah. Well, look, we're seeing it in the the defense budget. Their cost of fuel is in the billions of dollars over. We're seeing it even in military construction, bases and repairs and other things. we can't afford. The budget is going backwards.
You're seeing it when you're seeing it when you put gas in your car.
We're seeing it when put gas. So I mean, we're seeing it across our national security apparatus, our daily lives.
How are you doing on baby food?
And baby formula, as the dad of a 4-month-old, we've been scrounging for months. And I think the consistent theme here is a Biden administration continually, from Afghanistan to baby formula to inflation, has no plan, on their back foot. How do you go to the largest baby formula manufacturer in the country, responsible for 50%, shut them down, and then kind of walk away for months until it's a crisis? Is
the Defense Production Act the right move, you think, now?
Well, now, but like so many other things, too little, too late.
Yeah.
And I think we're just continually seeing actually Congress pushing, Zelensky pushing, across the board. It's pushing this administration along.
Good luck with finding the baby formula.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most importantly. Yeah. Got to keep Army well fed.
I've served in places where babies are malnourished across Africa and the Middle East. I never thought I'd see it here in the United States.
All right. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Give them a squeeze for us.